Meanwhile, the United States is unlikely to get any relief from the growing deficit. Latest figures from the Congressional Budget Office, or the CBO, show that the deficit is expected to rise in the next 10 years, with higher interest payments set to account for a historic share of government spending. The new projections from the non-partisan agency show the deficit jumping from $1.6 trillion this year to $2.6 trillion in the year 2034. The forecast shows that the deficit will be 5.6% of the GDP this year. It will jump to 6.1% in 2025 and remain at that level in 2034. The CBO notes that deficits have exceeded the share of economic output only during economic crises, not when the economy boomed. Meanwhile, debt held by the public would rise from 99% of the GDP at the end of this year to 116% by 2034. That's the highest level ever recorded in US history. Interest payments on the debt are a huge contributor to the huge deficit. In fact, the rising interest cost is equal to roughly 3/4 of the deficit increase over the next 10 years. Moreover, from 2025 onwards, interest costs will be a greater share of the GDP than any point since at least the year 1940. The aging population and the expected growth in Social Security and Medicare are just some of the factors that will contribute to soaring deficits. The spike in interest payments are partly due to the Federal Reserve's historic campaign to bring inflation under control. The CBO expects the Fed will begin to lower interest rates later this year, but it adds that rates in the coming years will be generally higher than previously thought. The newly released data also has some surprises. The deficit for 2024 is $63 billion lower than what was anticipated last year. The cumulative budget shortfall over the next decade is also less than initially forecast. One big reason for the sunnier forecast has been the recent legislation that capped spending. Better than expected economic growth in 2022 has a big role in reducing the deficit for 2024. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.